In joint-wise yoga, we'll learn 7 healthy alignment and movement principles. We'll learn 12 yoga postures and 5 breathing practices. The type of breathing I'd like you to learn first is called lateral breathing or Thoracodiaphragmatic breathing. How's that for a mouthful? This year I'll demonstrate for you what that looks like, breathing out to the sides. What you don't want to do is to breathe into the chest or into the belly, as that may alter the posture. Of course, I'm exaggerating here. When we're standing with a good neutral alignment of the spine, we're going to be able to move well in the 3 planes of motion. But notice that when the spine changes its shape, now it's not going to have the same mobility available to it. Then it's going to alter these movement patterns. These patterns are going to be shorter, but to move the same distance that we might be used to, we're going to have to strain certain areas of the body and maybe move too much in those flexible areas. Too much in the back or the neck or the shoulder or the knee or the hip. For session 2 practice, let's build upon what we've learned so far. We've learned how to move better in the 3 planes of motion. Now we want to move and add when to inhale, when to exhale, and then to tweak, the quality of our movement in those 3 planes a little bit in this session as well. Then we're going to add sit to stand motion. We're going to practice that and then see how it evolves right into our chair pose. And then the same way with the breathing technique that we're going to work on, we're going to add from lateral breathing, we're going to work on extending the length of the breath a little bit and letting ourselves exhale a little bit longer. And again, to translate that into our real life and to practice those things. So let's begin. The hip flexors are deep inside. You can see that lumbar spine there, front of the lumbar spine and the front of the pelvis here. And deep inside, deep to the intestines, we have the psoas and then the iliacus, these 2 big muscles. And then they go over the front of the pelvis and then attach to the hips down here. So the short hip flexors is a major problem in the modern era. Too much sitting. The hip flexors can overstretch the back because they attach to the back. They can overarch the back. Because they're attached here, by the time the hip goes backwards, it's going to pull that spine forward. So you can see that a little more easily here, how the muscle goes in front of the pelvis and attaches to the hip. And so it can pull the spine forward. And when that spine gets pulled forward, it can put a strain into the back and overarch the back. See that lumbar spine and the psoas. And then, of course, our abdominals go from here to here, and they keep that back from overarching. So warrior 1 pose stretches those hips. You can see that muscle goes like this, that psoas, those hip flexor muscles goes like that. So we need to use our abs to stabilize so that we don't overarch our back. Cobra pose. So another type of back bend that we got to watch out for overarching the back is Cobra pose. So by the motion starting at the hips, it helps to get the belly off the ground right away. This gentleman, you can see, he really needs to work on moving first at his hips, and he has a lot of hip muscles here, right? It's going to make it harder for his hip to move, so he's going to have to be really conscious to move this part first so he doesn't overarch his back. So here's a little demonstration of the motion that we're talking about. We want to let the pelvis move first, then let's roll the spine up. And I'm going to show you the difference between, say, how that last gentleman was moving and the first. That's what we don't want, is to put that motion right into the back. Here's what we do want. We want to be able to roll that pelvis back, then flow the spine up. Flow from the bottom up. True or false, starting motion, become out of warrior pose, for example, by first going a little bit in the opposite direction can reduce stress on the body and the joints. Definitely true. So which of these helps to counter the effects of sitting? Ding, ding. I bet you said B. Definitely things we want to do to counter the effects of sitting in our life. So going forward, what should you practice? Definitely use the yoga postures. They can make a huge difference. And then if you're using them with the breathing and the movement principles in mind, you've got it. For your convenience, here's a list of the 12 postures. In our practice session, we're going to go through each of the postures. So get ready to practice, and let's practice together. And thank you so much for doing the course.